Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is July 2. Today in our daily Bible reading, we continue to read from the prophet Isaiah, and he is continuing to bring God's judgment against the nations. Today in our reading, the judgment against Edom starts us off, and this shouldn't surprise us because Edom has always been a thorn in the side of God's will because they've always gone their own way and caused problems for the nation of Israel. Now, what's interesting in today's reading, if you look at the first judgment against Edom, it says an oracle concerning Dumah. But if you look at the footnote, we read Dumah means silence or stillness, and it is a word play on Edom. So God is coming in judgment once again on Edom. Then we see a second judgment against Edom, where God says, "My sword has drunk its fill in the heavens. See, it descends in judgment on Edom, the people I have totally destroyed. But the Lord has a day of vengeance, a year of retribution to uphold Zion's cause." God has had it with Edom, as we've seen over and over through not only Isaiah's writings, but the other prophetic writings as well. We read on, God will stretch out over Edom the measuring line of chaos and the plumb line of desolation. Her nobles will have nothing there to be called a kingdom. All her princes will vanish away. Thorns will overrun her citadels, nettles and brambles her strongholds. So Edom is going to cease to exist. That's how strong God's words of judgment are against the Edomites. Then we read God's judgment against Arabia. And this is what the Lord says. Within 1 year, as a servant bound by contract would count it, all the pomp of Kedar will come to an end. The survivors of the bowmen, the warriors of Kedar, will be few. The Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken. This time what's different is that the Lord is giving a time frame here. He is coming in judgment within 1 year. Then as we read on, we see the judgment against Tyre. Now, Tyre is an island nation. An oracle concerning Tyre, wail, O ships of Tarshish, for Tyre is destroyed and left without house or harbor. The Lord Almighty planned it to bring low the pride of all glory and to humble all who are renowned on the earth. The Lord has stretched out his hand over the sea and made its kingdoms tremble. He has given an order concerning Phoenicia that her fortresses be destroyed. Look at the land of the Babylonians, this people that is now of no account. The Assyrians have made it a place for desert creatures. They raised up their siege towers. They stripped its fortresses bare and turned it into a ruin. At that time, Tyre will be forgotten for 70 years, the span of a king's life. But at the end of those 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the song of the prostitute. Take up a harp, walk through the city, O prostitute forgotten. Play the harp well, sing many a song, so that you will be remembered. So some pretty harsh words as well against the nation of Tyre. Now, it's not long before some of these judgments that we've been reading about over the last couple of days in our daily Bible reading are going to start to be fulfilled. So for now, we get back to the narrative. The narrative takes us back to the land of Judah, the tribes in the south. Remember, the king is King Ahaz, and King Ahaz has been trying to negotiate with the king of Assyria to come on board with him to form some sort of alliance as a means of self-protection. So Ahaz is actually going to promote Syria's fall. Ahaz has sought help, and he's sending all the temple treasures to the king of Assyria for help against both Israel and Syria. It's a bribe of sorts, but he's bribing the king of Assyria with all the things that belong to God. You can see that Ahaz is causing himself some pain to come. You can see that he's digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole with God. Tiglath-Pileser, who is the king of Assyria, is going to take these treasures from Ahaz, and he's also going to move his army in and take over Damascus. In the meantime, Ahaz is impressed with the things that he's seeing Assyria do, and he wants to come into good relations with them, and so he orders a Syrian altar. He sends a sketch of this pagan altar to Uriah the priest with orders to build it for him before he returns to his own land. When he returns, the altar is built just as he prescribed. It is a pagan altar, however, and Ahaz then begins to offer sacrifices on it. He even gives instructions for use that the offerings are to be made on this new altar every morning and every evening on this kind of Assyrian replica altar. It is bordering on idol worship just because of the altar itself. Now look at how he uses the old altar. Ahaz changes all the old temple furniture, taking pieces away from them and giving them to the king of Assyria. It's as though whatever the king of Assyria wants, he gets from Ahaz. It's as though God doesn't even exist. There is no respect for God. There is no respect for the furnishings of the temple. Everything is given to the king of Assyria just as he desires. We see the extent of Ahaz's corruption, and you just have to read this section on page 833 to see how bad things really had gotten. In his time of trouble, King Ahaz became even more unfaithful to the Lord. He offered sacrifices to the gods of Damascus, who had defeated him. Now, why would he do that? Well, we're told this is what he thought. Since the gods of the kings of Aram have helped them, I will sacrifice to them, so they will help me. But they were his downfall and the downfall of all Israel. Ahaz gathered together the furnishings from the temple of God, and he took them away. He shut the doors of the Lord's temple, and he set up altars, listen to this, at every street corner in Jerusalem. In every town in Judah, he built high places to burn sacrifices to other gods and provoked the Lord, the God of his fathers, to anger. This is how bad it's gotten. Closing the doors of the temple of God and building high places and building idols to worship on every street corner in Jerusalem. Ahaz has completely lost his way, and as a result, he's causing Judah to do the same. We read about Ahaz's death, and Ahaz is going to be followed then in his kingship by his son, Hezekiah. Now, Ahaz was so wicked that even though we've seen some good kings in Judah, you almost expect the next king, his son, to be equally bad. But what a breath of fresh air his son is to Judah. His son, Hezekiah. Hezekiah now begins his sole reign. He is 25 years old when he takes the throne, and he reigns for 29 years. And listen to the kind of character he has in contrast to that of his father Ahaz. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. He removed the high places. He smashed the sacred stones. He cut down the Asherah poles. He broke into pieces, this is interesting, the bronze snake Moses had made. Remember that? The bronze snake that was taking away the curse from the people? He broke into pieces the bronze snake Moses had made, for up to that time, the Israelites had been burning incense to it. It was called Nehushtan. You see, even something that was created at the command of God, in obedience to the command of God, had turned into an idol. By the way, it was misused by the people of God. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. He held fast to the Lord and did not cease to follow him. He kept the commands the Lord had given Moses, and the Lord was with him, and he was successful in whatever he undertook. That shouldn't surprise us. There's that formula again. You do what God commands, just as God commands it, and you will be successful, just as Hezekiah found out for himself. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.